Yo, what's up, everybody? Cova back here again with another live stream, another drawing stream. Today we have another amazing, fantastic indie artist. But before we bring him in, I just want to do a couple plugs. Um, go subscribe and check out my Patreon. It's only $5 a month. You get access to all of the content on there. Even if you sign up as a free member, you'll get access to most of the content on there. Go check out my comics on my website, avoxcomics.com. The link to that is in the description below. I have a bunch of comics on there for free as well as for sale. All my digital comics, I've some digital comics on there for sale and other digital and my physical comics up there for free. I have a few issues of AWOL still left, Nobody's Safe, and a bunch of other books. So go check that out. Um, Also, I just dropped a new video on my main channel about Image Comics. So if you guys are interested, go check that out. And without further ado, let's welcome Jay the Artist. Yo, what's up, man? You hear me?
Yo, what's up, guys? I'm Jay the Artist.
Hell yeah. So give me one second, I'm dropping these links real quick. So how's your day been going? You hear me?
It's been pretty chill, pretty productive. Did a lot of drawing. Got ready for this live stream, so pretty cool to be here.
Hell yeah. So I'm gonna bring up your comic on the screen so we could check that out. So what made you start wanting to do this comic on first, like what was the inspiration for this comic, and then from there why did you decide to put it on like comics, global comics?
So I had quite a few inspirations for the comic, some of which being Lord of the Rings, Berserk, Claymore, Game of Thrones, Fire Emblem, a bunch of fantasy and dark fantasy stories. And the reason I chose to put it on global because it's a pretty neat platform for all types of comics. It's free and it's definitely different from Webtoon because I have posted on Webtoon before, but that's more of the scroll format. While
Mhm.
global, you can do scroll or traditional. So it was pretty much a little bit of a no brainer for me to just go ahead and choose global. It was a pretty easy user interface as well.
For sure. How, like I've used Webtoon before. I didn't really like it either. I'm not really into like the scroll type comics or anything like that. So I remember when Global Comics first kind of popped out. I don't know how many people actually use it. Is there like a big user base, or is it easy to get people to go to check out your books on that website compared to like other sites? Or how has your experience been using it outside of like the interface being relatively easy?
So Webtoon kind of has that built-in audience, so it's very easy to get views and kind of grow with it. While global, you can get a decent amount of views. You definitely have to do a little bit more groundwork to kind of funnel people from social media into reading global by constantly like promoting your links. But Webtoon, it's a bit different. You don't have to do as much advertisement, and they'll even sometimes put you on like their front page. Even though global does the same, it's kind of different. There's just more people reading Webtoon, but I still kind of ultimately chose global. And it's also another difference between their platforms. Global is a lot more free with what they allow on their platform, while Webtoon is a bit more censored. Now, my
Yeah.
book doesn't have anything in it that would get, flagged on Webtoon necessarily, but I've seen plenty of comics on Global where I was like, yeah, that wouldn't fly on Webtoon. So I thought that was pretty cool to see.
What I've noticed with a lot of these like sites that are curated for people to post their independent work, they all have like different audiences that they have bring. Like Webtoons is a bigger platform, it's been around for a long time and it's pretty established at this point where there's like there's Webtoons that are so popular that they're in getting like physical adaptations and stuff like that. Like I think Lore Olympus started off on Webtoons. So but I think but only certain types of comics work on that website, more like the like slice of life stuff, humor, girl type stuff, or action and those type of things. I don't think they work as well on Webtoons. I may be wrong. I don't know. I don't know if Solo Leveling started off on Webtoons or what website it started off on, but outside of that, I can't really think of anything else that came from that website that worked in that format. Global Comics, I think it is a good platform, especially since it has like other professional comics on there, like from like Image and Dark Horse and stuff like that. So I feel like it helps bring eyes to the platform. But I just wonder because I don't really use it as much. I just wonder if that brings people to like checking out all the other stuff. But back to like Desi. So like you said, you like fantasy and that genre. Um, has that always been a genre you've really been like attached to and been drawn to, as far as just like making your work, or how has that been for you?
So funny enough, I have always liked fantasy, but my first work was actually a superhero comic because like I am a bit of a comic book nerd. So
Hmm.
you make comics. Who doesn't want to make a superhero comic? So that's originally what
Yeah,
I started with. But ultimately, I ended up falling back into doing fantasy comics. So that's and Death Seed is ultimately the result of that. But maybe one of these days I'll make another superhero comic.
for sure. So who are some of your like influences as far as outside of theme, but like artistic style and stuff like that? You have a really really good style. It's kind of like manga esque. You're also and you do all the colors and everything yourself, right?
Yes.
So that's even great because I mean your colors look really really good too. So like what artists were you reading or comics were you reading coming up that influenced your style and storytelling?
So I'm a big Invincible fan. I think
Oh,
Invincible
same.
definitely kind of influenced me a little bit. I love comic book artists like Dan Mora. He's a huge inspiration. Jorge Jimenez. He's also a pretty big inspiration for me. And on the manga side, Yusuke Murata,
Hmm.
Kentaro Miura. Those guys are also big influences. So I kind of just grab little bits and aspects of each of those artists and kind of smash them together to try to create my own style.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I can see that. That's awesome. Yeah, you really are tapped into a lot of the American artists. I feel like a lot of people like what like the style like yours and similar to mine. People assume is like you only read manga and stuff, but you definitely named a lot of greats. Some of my favorites are like Daniel Warren Johnson, James Herron, Sanford Green. I like Ryan Otley, who did Invincible as well. Invincible is definitely one of my favorites. I'm glad it's starting to get like the respect it deserves as far as being a really really great comic. So that's super dope. So what? So I when I was looking on your page, I seen that you already have issue one done of DevC. So why did you decide to just put it, like chapter zero or issue zero instead of putting chapter one on the website?
So I'm currently still working on chapter one. So the
Oh,
prologue
okay.
is out, and that's actually a very funny story about the prologue.
Hmm.
So I also do conventions. I sell my books at conventions, and May of this year was MomoCon here in Atlanta, and I was basically trying to scramble to finish a book because I want a book to sell at the actual convention, and so I didn't have time to completely finish the whole chapter one. So I just kind of had to do the whole prologue in like 1 month. So I just got it together. I wrote it, drew it, inked, color, all of that in a month just so I could try to have it done. And since May up until now, I've just kind of been working on the actual issue one because the
Yeah.
prologue is about 12 pages of actual content. The full issue one is going to be 44 pages. So
Nice.
it's definitely going to be a difference.
So how has your experience been at tabling at conventions? How many cons have you done so far?
So I have done MomoCon twice. I did it last year and this year. I've done Anime Weekend Atlanta last year, and I'm going to be there this year too, this December. I've
Nice.
done the Atlanta Comic Convention and some other stuff. I think tabling is a great way to get your book out there because obviously there's online sales, but there's a whole nother avenue of selling in person. And so it's been pretty good. I've been selling books with my team at Radical. We've had
Yep.
tables together, and there have been some events where we've sold every single book we have in inventory, and we've done well. So I think for any artist, comic book artist, regular illustrator, go table it at an event. You'll be surprised how many people are interested in your stuff.
For sure. I started my first time tabling this year also. So I had like a small like trading card show. Like I think it was in February. It was like a small show. Most people there were just like Pokemon cards and stuff like that. And then I did a bigger convention in like the city over from where I'm at. It was more like a smaller comic book show, and then I did my final big convention in August, mid. It's the Atlantic Comic Con. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a newer one. It's like its second year, but it's pretty big. It was a pretty good show for like its second time. That was like my best one as far as profits go. I think I sold most of my comics there. And I feel like every single time I've gone, I've just learned something new about like what people are drawn to, and like kind of like what sells and what doesn't. Like I'm not trying to be like one of those people who like or like into like selling prints and stuff like that. Like I'm not opposed to it. I see, that the appeal and those things really move really well. Like obviously I'm there to like push my comics and stuff. But I see like it's like a good like case study to see what people are drawn to and what stories. And also it teaches me how to like pitch my books well, like getting that log line down to get people like into wanting to check out the books. Because if you like try to draw out the pitch too long, the people are like, oh, that sounds cool, awesome. But if you have it like one of my stories is a horror comic, and I like by the third con I already had it kind of down, like, oh, this is a story about what would happen if your imaginary friend found that you were getting bullied, and that's kind of like the pitch, and it's a horror comic, and people are like, oh wow, like da da da. And my last show, I had like my newest comic AWOL there, and I didn't have everything kind of like set and like how to explain what it was about. You know what I'm saying? So I think it kind of hurt a little bit just to get people drawn into it. I don't know if you've experienced that or anything like that, but yeah. So how is like being with Radical? Because I know Ronnie, I've known him for like a couple years, like at least I've been following him on Instagram for a couple years. So how did you get tapped in with him?
So this is actually pretty cool story. So I had also been mutuals with Ronnie for a couple years. It was this year that we finally kind of grew our relationship more, because we'd always see each other on Instagram, like each other's posts and all that. But one of our other mutual friends, he goes by Jay Center or Black Blaze Official on Instagram. He asked me to come join Radical, and I did. That's where I met Ronnie, Trey, Eli, some of the other guys in the group, and we've kind of all just grown together, kind of push each other to finish their stories. Because I know, kind of like in the indie space that we occupy, there's a lot of people who try to put out the book, but sometimes they just need the motivation to finish. Because you probably know too, it's not always easy to finish a project. So that's kind of, we've all been like a motivator for each other, kind of have each other step outside of our comfort zones. Because matter of fact, with Ronnie, I actually introduced him to tabling at like larger events. So I did that for him, and he's kind of introducing me to selling books online. So I'm gonna end up getting a label maker so I can eventually sell stuff on TikTok Shop. So we've all been kind of helping each other level up in certain aspects.
For sure. I think definitely getting integrated with like a group of like-minded artists and stuff helps a lot. This year or last year, I got into a group called the K Fam, and similar to you guys, like most of us are like creators, artists, designers, and stuff. And essentially, you just learn from like being around each other. Like you learn new different things. Like I learned about like how to format my books and which publishers work or printers are the best. And same thing with like tabling. Like I would ask them, oh, what's the best thing to do with tables and da da da. And I think it does help a lot, especially because art and making comics is such a like a singular task and something you do by yourself a lot of the time. So it's easy and fun to have somebody to like bounce ideas off of or talk to, and even just to, like you said, motivate each other to get stuff done, and even share stuff with each other to begin with. I think that is a key thing to help push people to make books. I've seen that on your global comics, you have a few comics done, so that's really really good. I feel like a lot of people it's hard for them, like you said, to finish stuff, but it seems like you kind of have a knack for like you have at least like 3 or 4 comics on this site uploaded, so that's really really good. Whatever, like some like what did you like go to school for art or anything like that? Because you have a really really good style, and like how did you just like started just getting into it? When did you start getting into drawing, and then like what made you start going into drawing comics?
So I've been drawing ever since I could pick up a pencil. I've kind of always been drawing, always. Because I remember way back when I used to like have Yu-Gi-Oh. I mean, I still collect Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I used to try and like draw the cards and replicate them and like draw Dragon Ball characters. But I actually went to school for art. So I attended Kennesaw State, and I have a bachelor's degree in illustration. That's one of my degrees. So
nice.
Definitely.
How was that experience?
So it was great. I was actually in school, college during COVID, so I did like lose like a year and a half during that time. But a lot of my professors were like professional comic book artists, so a lot of them put me on. One of them actually put me on to tabling at conventions, because prior to going to school, I didn't even really know that was a thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, they put me on. I met a lot of cool people, learned a lot of skills, a lot of people who helped point me in the right direction, helped me refine some things. Because in art school, it's just nothing but critiques. Like you gotta learn how to get tough skin about your art because you're gonna have
Mhm.
constant people like looking at it, telling you, "Oh, you can improve here, do this, do that." So it was definitely an experience that helped me improve a lot and learn. I made quite a few connections. I still keep in contact, and actually, they got me an opportunity to work with some, smaller publishers when they would get like professional work. Sometimes they would pass it off to us. So I've actually had an opportunity to like work on some stuff for Marvel Snap, the card game, mobile game.
Nice, nice. It's
So I've
dope.
actually had some chances to work with that. So it was a pretty cool experience. Expensive experience, but
Yeah, yeah.
cool nonetheless.
Yeah, so you feel like it was worth it to go and get immersed into that like community stuff? Because I know some people they're like, "Oh, don't go to our school; it's kind of a waste." Da da da. But I mean, it seems like you had a positive experience. You kind of came out the end with like more skills and more your eyes open to what you could do as far as being an artist. Did you go in with the expectation of wanting to make comics, or were you geared or leaning towards a different medium of art before you went to school?
So when I first started, because I think most people dream of their story being on like an animated show. I loved animation, but I
Mm,
think once you go to art school, you learn like various type of arts. You get really into the weeds of it. I tried animation, but I found that like as an artist, I wasn't a patient person as an artist.
mhm.
And you can't even learn with comics. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
you're not gonna knock out a whole book in like a week. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy. But I learned that animation was even a bigger marathon than comics because like while we're drawing like 50 panels, they're drawing 500 frames.
Yeah.
So it can become a lot. But ultimately, I settled on comics because you just have more control over what you create versus with animation. There's a larger production teams. Oftentimes,
Mhm.
you're not deciding the direction of the art itself versus like a comic book artist. I know there are one man team animators, but it's more feasible to be a one man team as a comic book artist than an animator. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, because yeah, like you said, animation. There's so many hands that go into that. Like, I've bought like animation books of like Spider Verse and Avatar stuff like that. And you'll see like people who do all these crazy character designs, but then at the final episode or whenever the episode comes, on, none of that is shown. So it's like, yeah, I worked in this show, but you wouldn't even tell that I even did anything, or was a part of the team at all, unless you're like the key or the head of whatever department that is in charge of character design, storyboards, all that stuff. So it's definitely comics is definitely something same for me. It's like I like it because it is more of a individual art style that you can just put all yourself into and all of that. How long does it usually take for you to like get through a comic and produce something like because I you do all the colors and all that too. So I know that even adds way more time. That's why I stick to just doing black and white and grayscale with my artwork. But how
it
long does it
does.
usually take for you to get your stuff done?
So this question has like a variance of answers because like personal life has kind of changed a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll just talk about right now because that's normal how it's gonna be going forward. So I usually break my process up into like three phases or four
Mm-hmm.
phases. I take the writing phase, the sketch phase, the ink, and then the color. I'm not going to use issue one of DeathSeed that I'm working on because that's a bit of an anomaly. That's like 40 plus pages. But a normal book that's like 20 plus or around 20 pages, it
Mm-hmm.
might take 3.5 months. I spend one of those months just sketching, one inking, one coloring,
Okay.
and so I can get that done in like 3 months.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I see that because I mean, how long? Which process takes the longest? Is it the coloring or the writing?
Funnily, well, the writing does take a bit for me
Mhm,
because I find that it can be difficult, but it's mainly because it's just an issue one. Once I feel like the start of a story is always the most difficult for me. Once I get over that issue one hump, it's usually always easier. But funnily enough, the sketching can probably take the most time because I'm kind of trying to figure out how I want the pages to look. You have the
Yeah.
idea in your head, and you're basically just trying to make it come to life. Versus like when the sketch is done, inking, I'm just going over what's already there. I'm not
Mm.
making any changes or adjustments. Coloring, I'm just putting it in. I'm making sure it matches colors that have already been previously done. So that process can go pretty quickly. Like today, before we even hopped on live, I was coloring one of my pages and I knocked it
Nice.
out in like 2.5, 3 hours.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, for me, I'm like kind of fast. I mean, I get usually I do like my comics are usually like double sized also, so they're usually like 40 pages. I'm trying to learn how to like make them shorter because I feel like I would be able to get more done faster. But usually it's probably probably like 2 months depending on how much I do. But I'm in the same way as you, where I'm gonna doing all the writing first, then I'm gonna do all the thumbnails, and then I'm gonna do all the inks, and then all the gray tones. All like as I'm not gonna do like one full page and one piece. That just is ridiculous on your time. So I definitely have the same process as you. I'm definitely like a 2 months, 3 months, depending on how well I prep. I feel like this is the most important thing for me, just like prepping everything beforehand. So like once I do start drawing, like the inking and the gray tone is probably the fastest for me because it is just me turning my brain off and just going in on it. And then like even when I do like my thumbnails, I usually do really really loose thumbnails, which it helps at times, but sometimes I have an issue where I'll forget what I drew because I drew the thumbnail so loose and I'm like, damn, what the hell was that? And then I have to go back to my script, so I have to like reimagine the whole thing again. But outside of those two like steps, the inking and the gray tones for sure. I can gray tone a book probably like in a week and a half maybe. Inking, it depends, especially now because I went back to doing everything traditional, so that takes a little bit longer now because I have to like take all my materials out, and scan it back in, and which I don't mind. I like doing traditional. I feel like I've gotten better at drawing since I've went back to doing pencil and paper. But that's dope, man. That's good. I mean, you like I said when I was looking at your global comics page, you have a few comics out, so those are just done in the matter of last couple of years, like the Vermilion book. I see the DeathSeed Zero, and there's another one on here um, that you've done as well. So you just done that like through when you were in school or
Yeah, so Vermilion and the other story, Code Obsidian, was
Code City?
done while I was in school. And I'll talk about Vermilion because Vermilion was that superhero story I was telling you about earlier. That was
Gotcha.
the story that I had when I was a kid. I made that story when I was like 11 years old, and I was waiting to tell that story for like 10 years because I had that young artist syndrome where I was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna wait till I get really good to tell my story. But I kind of just put it like this, it would never happen. I would never really get good enough to be satisfied because I was like a very bad perfectionist at the time. Pages had to be absolutely perfect at the time, which is why I never
Mhm.
continued Vermilion because I felt like it wasn't really good enough. It wasn't as good as the image I had in my head for it.
Yeah.
Versus now with DeathSeed, I don't have that expectation for it to just be the best thing ever. I'm just letting it be what it is. So that's why I think I have a bit more motivation to continue that story versus this one. Because this
Mhm.
is one I've been working on at the time for like 11 or 12 years. Like this
Oh,
story
wow.
went through so many changes. But, when you work on something for that long, you kind of get some type of emotional attachment to it. And like I said, I was a perfectionist. So I just wanted it to be as good as possible. But at the time, I just couldn't accept not being able to create a perfect product, and that's why I just never continued.
Yeah, for sure. That happened to me a few years back as well. Same thing. I had like a superhero story that I was doing. It was a web comic that I did on my website that I have now, and I was just like pumping out chapters, writing. It was like another story I had as a kid, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I don't have a perfectionist issue, but I was realizing that the things that I wanted to draw on the page, I didn't have the ability to do it yet. So I completely stopped. It was the end of 2023. I stopped doing it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a step back and I'm just gonna go study art. I'm gonna go pick up some art books. Cause at the time, what I was doing, I was just like learning on the page, just doing stuff, looking at references while I was drawing on the page and stuff like that. And I was improving a little bit, but it wasn't really like um anything substantial. Like it wasn't. I wasn't really getting my skills up, and I didn't really understand what I was doing. I was just drawing, and then I just stopped doing it, and I just started working on other little mini stuff here and there, like one shots here and there that I have now. And doing the one shots, I feel helped me get my skills up. But the only good thing about when I was doing the webcomic, it just taught me what it really feels like and looks like to actually put a comic out monthly, because I was doing it monthly. So I did it for like 11 months straight. I was putting out a comic, a chapter out a month for that comic. So it kind of helped me in that regard, but it definitely was the same as you. Was like, I didn't feel up to the task skill wise to continue the comic. So, but a good thing about doing like a comic like this that nobody really is probably seen or anything like that is that you can always go back to it. You know, like you could always go back to Vermilion and just redo it in like the future. You know, rewriting. I'm actually in the process of doing that with that webcomic, but that's probably not going to be for a whole another year of when I decide to put that out. But you know, that is like the cool thing about just making comics and having an original IP, because I feel like people think like, oh, I'm gonna put this thing out and it's gonna be the best thing, and then you kind of people get down on themselves about it, or they don't feel like it's that great. But you can always just go back and remaster your stuff, which is something I'm kind of learning too. Is instead of me trying to make up a bunch of new stuff, I still have stories that I want to tell, and I feel like I'm just getting better at doing it, and I'm just gonna go back and just redo them and continue on until something works, I guess, or just or I just feel satisfied with what I'm doing and just continue on with that.
Yep, I can definitely relate to that. And I gotta commend you creating, a monthly series for like 11 months straight. That's big respect for me, because I know that it's very difficult to release art on a schedule like that. It can definitely be something else. So I gotta commend you for that. And yeah, you're right when it comes to the whole skill thing, and it kind of comes down to like comics being a marathon, because like
Mhm.
you said, progress and getting better doesn't happen overnight. It takes
Mhm.
time, like a noticeable amount of time to really get better at it. So
Yeah, for sure. Like when I was doing it, because what my plan was, or like I drew the first 3 chapters before I started posting them, so it kind of gave me like this 2 month buffer, and I was just doing it like that. So I was really probably doing it for like 9 months straight, because I already had the first 2-3 chapters already done. But it definitely taught me how to kind of pace myself and what worked and what didn't. It's just I just didn't know what skills I want to, like what I want to get better at. And then as far as just like, yeah, it does take a long time to get better at art. Because if you look at like who are like the masters in like spaces of art, most of them are like way older. They're like in their like at the earliest is like their mid 30s, and then most of them are like in their 40s and 50s and stuff like that. Obviously, there's those outliers of people who are like really really good at a really young age, but I feel like those people are like the ones who decided that they wanted to make art at a really young age, and they knew like, oh, like I like comics, I'm gonna start drawing comics at like 5, and then they just somehow miraculously stayed on track with that art. And like for me, I got into comics in like middle school, started drawing in middle school, and then I started playing sports, and then at least like 5-6 years I was just all about playing basketball and all that stuff. And then I slowly just found my way back, circled back around to making artwork. So I always find that fascinating when I see people who are like that, like they knew that they wanted to do this artistic thing, or they knew that they wanted to have this career at a young age and then stuck to it. Like one of my mentors, Brian Moss, he was like that. He said he found out he wanted to make art like at 4 or 5, and then he's been an artist ever since. Like sustainable like career, makes his own money doing art and stuff. So I always found that interesting, for sure. Um, but yeah, so let's start. I'm about to flip the camera. Do a piece of D. Someone inked this live on the stream.
okay, okay,
I printed it out on blue line, and then I
yo,
can't see it
that's
very
what's
well,
up.
but yeah. So I'm gonna flip the camera, and we can get cracking on that.
All right, let me see if I can also.
Yeah, see how if you're able to do it. Yeah. How is MomoCon though? I've heard of it. How is it like? Is it really really popping when you went the 2 times you've gone?
Yes, so funny enough, the time that we tabled at this year, it actually broke a record for highest attendance. It had 60,000 people
Oh snap!
attending that time. So yeah, it's like the second biggest con in Georgia, because that's where I'm from, Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
But as a con, it was amazing.
What is the biggest one? Dragon Con?
Yeah, Dragon Con's the biggest. That one has like attendance like at 100,000. That's like one of the biggest in the entire country.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't done any big cons yet. My goal is to do some bigger ones here in the near future. I just wanted to like that's why I started off at doing smaller shows because I wanted to see like how it actually would go and how it would work, and also I wanted to build up like my catalog of stuff to bring to the show. I didn't want to just like show up with just like one book or anything like that.
So now that you mention that, I got a funny story because last year was my first time attending a con, and I had to learn the hard way. I did the Atlanta Comic Convention with one of my former classmates from or friends from school, and her and I did our table together. We spent like a couple $100. The table was like $320. We split that half and half. We both paid for our parking and like the products that we were selling. I only made $81 at the tabling there for 3 days,
Oh
and
wow.
she made something around a similar amount. So, I kid you not, we didn't even come close to making table back. It was bad, but it was a learning experience because I'm gonna be honest, our table setup wasn't the best. And so we just kind of had to learn that presentation was really important at these type of events because there are people around you with some crazy, really nice table setups. And you kind of gotta wonder, well, why would they come to your table if the person next to you has this amazing, eye-catching table with all these products? So you definitely gotta try your best to stand out.
Yeah, for sure. What I do is I just talk to people. Like whenever somebody walks up, I'm always, hey, how you doing? Da da da. And then I don't like try to hard sell anybody. I try not to like be super aggressive about it. But I'm also like, hey, how are you doing? Da da da. Check out my books. These are all, and then I just kind of catch people like that. I feel like a big mistake I've noticed early on is a lot of people don't say anything, or they just kind of just let people walk by and expect them just to kind of what's the word? Oh snap! Trying to fix the screen. I think that should be good enough. I people like expect everybody just to walk up to them, I guess, or just like to notice the work. But yeah, definitely like you have to have a good presentation because if you don't, and then you also I think just a little bit of people skills. I wouldn't say you have to be like the most social person. You don't have to be like, um, super duper all up everybody's face or whatever. But I definitely think you just need to like know how to just interact at the very least and kind of have some sort of salesmanship. Obviously, like I don't think everybody's super comfortable doing that, but I don't know. I don't know how has it been for you, but
So for me, I've always took a person that was kind of like in between. It was like in between a passive versus like active sales approach because I've been around people who would just like stand in front of the table, just like shoot people, like bring people, hey, you come over here to my table. I've kind
yeah,
of been like the in between, and I think part of why I was able to do that is the way I've set my table up.
hmm
Is that I have a very sort of kind of like eye catching table. I opted to do a red table setup. Let me see if I can send myself the link to my table and see can I put it on the screen share.
yeah, nice. Yeah, I did. So when I was at Heroes Com, my mentor was there, Brian, and when I was he had like this like holographic tablecloth. And so when I went to do Atlantic Comic Con, I did the same thing. I think that kind of helped, but I don't really think too much about the table setup. Not yet, at least I haven't really invested. Like I got like displays and stuff to hold my comics up, hold my portfolio up. But I haven't invested in like the stand, like the things that you can build on top of the table, and so you can have everything kind of standing out and everything. I've kind of what I usually do is because I can't really sit on those table chairs for long because they start hurting my back and like my ass and stuff. So I usually I like stand up a lot. So that kind of I feel like that just helps draw people in, and then I just like talk to people. I don't like I said I'm not like a super hard sell guy. I'm not like hey come over here. Like I've had that happen to me before at shows, and it's super like off putting a little bit and a little awkward. It's like I feel like I'm like being rude when I'm kind of like oh thanks no thanks. So like I've had people like try to hard sell me. That actually somebody actually convinced me to buy their book by doing that. They're like, hey, come over, and I ended up buying their comic because they got me. But
Yeah, I think. Are you able to see my screen?
yeah, I added it to the stage. I will. Let me see. I'll full screen it so I can see it. Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, these are some of like my table portfolio. I have like some of the list of events I've been to, but these are some of the table setups that I've brought to events.
That's dope. What made you go with the? I mean, even all your artwork is a red too. That's sick.
Yeah, I did red because I noticed that a lot of events people didn't really pick red. They would do like a lot of pastel colors. So I
Hmm.
wanted to pick a color that people didn't use. And as you can see here, I do sell like some of my books. There's Vermilion, and I have an anthology series too. I didn't post that on Global, but I do have a graphic novel anthology that I also take to events and sell too.
Oh,
But
that's dope.
I do all types of the stuff. Books, prints, apparel, and it's kind of helped me out. Some people might come for like, let's just say the Pokemon or the Legend of Zelda art, and it's an opportunity for me to introduce my comic to them. So I found that that was a pretty interesting or cool way to get people to who may not have normally came to the table. It was a good way to get their attention.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen at one show there was a girl there and she had like a super pink one. It was like pink and like I think maybe yellow, and it was super themed. Like she had like the outfit, her outfit was pink, her everything was like all pink and stuff. So I've definitely seen people do that. I don't think I'm I don't think I'm gonna do that ever. I think I'm just gonna just stick with like a maybe a tablecloth and just work on just investing in like the little build-ups like you have with the with like the shelves. I don't know what they're called exactly, but that's when I mean once I start doing like more conventions. But I'm definitely gonna just like limit how many shows I do. I'm not probably not gonna do too many very often because I don't have that much time to be doing all that stuff because of just work and stuff. So I want to make them like special. Like one of the ones I want to do is like Heroes Con. I don't know if you heard of Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, I've heard of that one. I've seen like a couple of my favorite. I think I've seen Ryan Otley post from there a couple of times selling some of his Invincible covers that he's done there.
Yeah, Heroes Con is super duper dope. That one is like a real like comic book convention. Most of the vendors and stuff there are comic book artists and writers and creators. There's not really like any like cosplayers or like anime toys or anything like that. It's really like super duper comic book orientated. They definitely have they usually get a lot of dope artists. The last 2 years that I've been, I haven't seen Ryan Otley, so maybe he's been. I'm sure he's been in years past, but the last 2 years I haven't seen him. Like the biggest people have been there. I've seen like Daniel Warren Johnson. I've seen Art Adams, Dennis Cowan. That was just this last year. Sanford Green. Who else is there? Steve Steranko. Um, there's a bunch of people. There's always a bunch of people, and they always have a lot of big time people there. And it's just a great show. I really really like it. And if I can, I'm definitely gonna try to go every year because it's close to where I'm at. But that's one of the goals. I want to be able to table there. Doesn't seem like it's that like hard to sell stuff there. And it's definitely packed, so you definitely have to try to stand out. But that's definitely one of the ones I want to do for sure. And I want to do DreamCon as well.
Yeah, the Radical team and I, we've been talking about that one. The application came out not too long ago, and you got to get that Texas sales tax permit. So we've kind of just been working on trying to get that so we can apply.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, that's a big one that's been on our radar. We've been trying to get to. One of our guys lives in New York, so we may try to go to like the New York Comic Con and some of the events they have up there because we know those are super huge. It's a great networking opportunity too.
yeah for sure. New York Comic Con looks sick. I want to go up there eventually as well. I've never, that one. I think there's a Brooklyn Comic Con out there as well. I've only been in New York a few times, but I definitely want to go up to the show. That one, I want to go to San Diego, but I don't think I would ever run a table at San Diego. I just think I just want to go just check it out.
Yeah, that I know it is a lot trying to carry a bunch of products all on the plane and go halfway across the country, or pretty much all the way across the country to come
Yeah,
over
for
there.
sure.
That'd be a lot.
Yeah, yeah. How many issues of DeathSeed are you planning on doing? How long are you planning to do the comic for?
So right now, I'm thinking about roughly around 100 issues.
That was not.
That's what's within my head. I don't know if I'll end up getting to that full number, but because I'll do just like smaller individual arcs, so that
Hmm.
even if I do end up stopping the story early, there'll still be some complete arcs, like some complete stories that are being told in there.
Yeah, for sure. That's sick, man. Yeah. Well, with my series AWOL, how I'm planning it is I'm gonna do like 4 issue arcs. So every 4 issues is a story arc. I'm finishing up issue number 4, the pencils and inks, the pencils on that one, and then I'm going to take like the holiday season off, and then just start writing for that, and then still writing for some other series that I'm going to be working on, or planning on trying to get out next year. And then I mean I don't know what the in long game is for those series yet. I'm kind of just kind of going by feel, like how long. I don't think I'm gonna do anything that's 100 chapters. I'm like one of those people who I kind of get bored with stuff. Not like necessarily bored, but I want to end up doing something else as I'm working on something. Like I'm like when I'm working on an issue of AWOL, I start plotting out, thinking about another story I could work on and stuff like that. So that tends to happen a lot. So I don't think I could ever do a super duper long form comic unless I'm like super duper incentivized to do it. But that would be cool though. 100 issues. That would be sick.
Yeah, I'll aim for it. I'll aim for the stars and maybe land on the moon. We'll see.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. So you say you went to Tennessee State. What was the school you say you went to?
I went to Kennesaw State. It's up there near Atlanta. It's one of
Okay.
those schools. I was thinking about going to SCAD. Have you heard of SCAD?
Yeah, I heard it was good.
I thought about it, but they came into the high school back when I was in high school. They was telling us, tuition's about $250,000 for the time you're there, and I'm like, oh, never mind.
So your school was like an actual like art school, or you just went to the art program at the school?
I went to the art program at the school, so the school has been known to have a pretty decent animation program. Because some of the people that have gone on to work for some pretty cool productions. I know one guy I was in school with before he even graduated. He was already working on like Aqua Teen Hunger Force because they have like some animation studios there in Atlanta, like Adult Swim. So he was doing work
Oh wow,
with them, and yeah, it's just like a normal university. They just so happen to have like an art program.
nice, nice. That's dope. Did you have to like send in like a portfolio in order to get into the school, or you just once you actually got into the actual main school, you just signed up for the art program, or how did that work?
So you apply for the main school, then you like declare your major is gonna be art, and then you have
Hmm.
to after you're finished with your core art classes, you then have to submit a portfolio in order to get into like the main college of the arts. But if in high school, because they had like the AP art exams in like high school, so if you scored like a certain amount, you didn't have to submit a portfolio. But at the time, I didn't even know what the AP art exams were, so I never took those exams. So I ended up having to submit a portfolio, but I got in. It was pretty good experience. I will say this when it comes to like art school, obviously I know and most people know you don't have to go to be successful, and I don't think it's for everyone because it's definitely you know not cheap, and I would not
Mm.
tell anybody to go take out student loans to get an art degree. That's probably not the best financial decision,
Yeah.
but if you can make it work for you financially, and if you're someone who needs like a little bit more direction or structure, I think it definitely can be a great environment.
Yeah, did you feel like you benefited from that, like the structure and all the things? I know you said you learned a lot of stuff about like doing tables and all that stuff, but even outside of that, like you felt like you definitely learned from just being there and being immersed in all that.
Yeah, because I think, you know, I'd always been working on the art, but seeing those professors there, because when you have a really good professor, it can definitely make a difference. And that's what some of them did. Because, I'd take like figure drawing classes, and they would definitely help me out with my anatomy and point me in the right direction. You'd have professors like, okay, look, your perspective could use a little bit more work. You should practice this. Here's what you can do. And they would help you in that regards. So they definitely help provide that type of structure that can make it easy for students to grow. Because there are some people, I came in with freshman year, and they weren't like the best artists, but by the time we graduated 4 years later, they were crazy good. So I think it's definitely an environment where if you take advantage of the lessons, you can grow very rapidly.
Damn, that's dope, man. That's dope. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was first drawing in middle school, I looked into SCAD. I wanted to go to SCAD because I was the only school saw that had a comics program. But yeah, I'm sure it is pretty expensive. But I mean, Savannah looks nice, but yeah, yeah, I don't know about all that. The tuition going out in debt, I think that's a little ridiculous. Hmm. Do you have like, as far as like what you guys at Radical, what do y'all have any plans as far as like things y'all want to do together outside of just shows? Like, are y'all planning on doing like any books together or anything
So
in that nature?
we released a magazine on like the main Radical Play page on Global, so that's kind of like a group thing we've been doing, the magazine. But outside of like crossovers, I know Ronnie did like the Indieverse crossover where some members of Radical participated. I didn't participate because I know people were drawing like the intro pages for their characters and all that. At the time, I just wanted to focus on my book so that I can make sure that I would reach the deadline because we talked about earlier. It can take me a couple months to finish some books.
Hmm.
So I just kind of wanted to make sure I would meet my deadlines because I want to have this book to sell at events and conventions. So that means I need to get it done by a certain time so it can ship out.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen them doing that. I've seen him. He's done it a few times over the past couple years on like on Instagram. They should really like uh do like an actual book, like get all those pages, put them together and like sell it. I think that would be pretty cool. Um, there's the one guy who I forgot his name. He does a comic too. I forgot what his character is called, but it's like Battle Stance or something like that. And
Okay.
his art was really really good. Um, I don't know when his comic's gonna come out, but he does a lot of the crossovers with Ronnie as well. He's a really really good artist. But that could be something that would be like cool to see in print. But I'm sure they're probably all working on different formats and stuff, so it'd probably be really hard to get all that together and all the files to match and
Yeah, because we kind of learned that too. Like I've always known about how to format comics for print because I've been doing it for a minute and I've like had people help me. But
Hmm.
like when I joined Radical, like I realized that a lot of people were making pages on like different sizes and formats. So I knew it would be difficult if we were to try to like put all our work in one book because we talked about it at one point in time doing some sort of anthology or compendium for like the members of Radical, but we know that we work on like different page formats. So it would be a little bit of an editing nightmare to kind of make all our pages fit properly in a certain book. Because I don't
Yeah.
even work on standard comic book size. I do mine on 6x9, mainly
Hmm.
because I was inspired by the Avatar Dark Horse comics and Kami Garcia and Gabriel Piccolo, their Teen Titan books.
Yeah.
I like that size of books that it can fit in a bag. It's not like too big because like I don't have anything against like traditional comic book sizes, but I do think the books themselves are a bit big for my liking.
Hmm.
So I just kind of prefer like the more handheld 6x9 type of sizes.
Yeah. I feel that. Yeah, I've always liked. I think the manga is like the manga format, the trade that digest sides. I think that is probably is like the most like the easiest to like keep and carry. I don't really care for like floppies either. Like my goal is to not do floppies anymore when I do shows and stuff. I want to have like full size graphic novels now because I feel like people will be more drawn to that instead of just having like a floppy. Because if you're unless you're like an actual comic book like person fan like that, I don't feel like there's like the floppy just seems kind of like a frivolous um format, you know. Whereas like a graphic novel or like a manga size or digest size book is, you know, more convenient for people because they can just put it down wherever and it won't get messed up. And you know what I'm saying? Like if you have a floppy, you have to, you know, invest in like a long box or, you know, make sure it doesn't go anywhere because those things are super flimsy and they can just get really messed up really quick. And also just like as far as like printing costs goes, the I feel like the more pages, the better for people to be more incentivized to want to buy your books because obviously with printing costs, you have to double the cost of whatever it costs to print a book. And, you know, sometimes, you know, you can sell a book for like $10, $15. And if it looks like a floppy, people are gonna be like, well, I don't want to spend that much money on a floppy or like something that looks like a regular comic book, you know?
Yeah, I
But
definitely understand. Like in terms of like cost efficiency, I was like an indie creator. Floppies aren't necessarily the best way to go because you may not push out and sell enough floppies to really make it worth it. So I know a lot of
mhm.
people just have the graphic novels.
Yeah, because if you're not like printing like thousands of copies of books, it's kind of like you're not gonna get the profit margin isn't gonna be that great, and then you don't want to make it even harder on yourself to get a bunch of books off of you and at shows and stuff because you're gonna have to like force yourself to go to hella shows to move a bunch of products, and if you're not moving nothing, it's just a waste. So I noticed because I did an anthology with um some guys from the group I run with, and whenever the anthology was done, they sent us the print link, and I bought a couple copies, and I took it to a show that I did, and they all sold real quick. And so that's when I got the idea. It's like, well, I think if I just stick to just selling bigger size books, or like things with more pages to chew on for people to read, I think they will sell a lot better. And that's where I kind of came up with the idea of doing my comic series in a four issue story arc because then that could just be one book, you know.
Yeah, because that's definitely kind of how I do. Because like the way I envision my graphic novels or volumes to be is four individual issues will compose like one graphic novel. So I
Yeah.
guess we're definitely thinking very alike in that regard.
Yeah. So you're trying to have issue one of DeathSeed ready for the convention in December, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what's up, man. You feel like you're on pace for it?
Yes, I do. I think I have my file here in my file explorer. I have ignore that there's no three here. I'm currently inking page three. I have one, two, three, four, five, 6 pages left to color.
Nice.
And because my goal is to have it ready to go to print in probably around like late November so that they can come or I can have them before because the actual event is December 18th through the 21st. So as
Hmm.
long as I put in my order before December 1st, I think the books will arrive on time. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that is definitely smart. You would definitely want to have it done before because you never know if something can come up with the printer and they can delay and da da da. So that's
yeah,
dope, man. That's good, man. Especially since like you do all the colors also, because I know that, man. For me, when I was trying to color some of my stuff, it just takes so long, and I'm also just I feel like I'm just like color dyslexic. Like I don't have a good understanding of how to put colors together that make sense and match. That's why I just stick to gray tones. I feel like I have a good understanding of how to put the tones down and do all the gradients and all that stuff. But for some reason with colors, I don't know. I just feel like I'm not super comfortable with it yet.
yeah, it definitely takes time and just kind of viewing colors that you do like because I know Invincible's colorist. I don't want to butcher their name. I think it's FP Pest. I'm not gonna butcher.
Yeah,
I'm
no
actually
time.
looking it up.
It's
They're the ones
FCO
that did the
Placentia.
colors. Yeah, they're the ones that did the colors during like the Invincible War, the Conquest fight, the Viltrumite War. You know, I felt like that was peak Invincible art. I really liked their colors,
Yeah,
so
he
I was
did
kind of
really good job.
studying them. And like I said, Gabriel Piccolo, I kind of like his stuff. Dan Morrow. So it kind of just comes down to studying, you know, expanding the visual library. Pinterest is really going to be your best friend because I see so much cool art on Pinterest.
Yeah, I use Pinterest a lot for like reference photos and stuff like that. I used to definitely on there quite a bit when it comes to stuff like this. So I don't think I asked you this, but what is like your long term goal? Are you trying to get like published to a major, or just continue just building up like your indie stuff, or what do you like plan on getting out of doing the comics and stuff?
So at this point, it's kind of just for like me at this point. I do would like for the comic to get pretty popular, and you know, I think for the most part, I do plan on staying self-published. But you know, if Dark Horse would have come knock on my door later on, you know, I'd hear them out. But I think one thing I really am interested in is like once I get further enough along within the story, maybe trying to pitch it to a streaming service or you know some type of company, see if I can you know fulfill that childhood dream of maybe getting it animated,
Nice.
even if it's just like a one season thing. You know, I'll take it. That's better than nothing.
Yeah, for sure. I feel you. That's dope, man. I mean, for me, I'm definitely gonna stick to doing like my indie stuff. My goal is like to really um just build up on just like YouTube and stuff and just continue to do that and just self publish. I mean, I wouldn't mind going to a publisher either with certain things. Like I don't have, like I said, I don't have like a long term series in mind, but I have a lot of like smaller series or like self contained stories that I would definitely would be willing to like give to publishers and stuff because I think I have so many ideas and stuff in my head. So that would be, that would be cool just to say I did it, but definitely more just trying to stick to just building my own independent fan base. So I don't have to be relying on, a publisher or, work hard on a book and it doesn't do well because there's no marketing behind, you know what I'm saying? Like all these things. That's literally the main reason I even started doing like YouTube and stuff because of that. Cause I found that it was like the best platform for artists to build an audience. Cause I've seen, all these people who like use YouTube and become popular on YouTube, and then they end up selling a product or whatever, comics like Corey Kenshin with his books, or like White Manga and these guys. So I've kind of taken like a page from their book, and that's what I'm kind of trying to go for.
Yeah, Corey, I've seen him. He's an inspiration. Like he's different because I heard like Monsters We Make was selling millions of copies, and I was like, that is crazy.
Yeah, just crazy. I didn't even really know who he was or follow him like that, and but I saw Monsters We Make, and I bought the first 2 volumes. It's really good. He has like a good artist for the series, and has a pretty solid story. I don't think I'm gonna continue reading it because it really isn't like my cup of tea in general. Is definitely more of like it kind of reminds me of like an early 2000s shonen type story, and it's not really like my favorite, but it definitely is really good quality. Like I isn't to say what the quality is, just like my taste in what I like to read now is a little different. Like if I was like younger, I think I would really like it, enjoy it. But I definitely am into like different types of stuff. Like I like action and comics and manga and stuff, but what he's doing in there just seems like something that I've kind of seen before, But it is really good, and he did like a good job of marketing the whole thing. It seems like he really cared about making a good comic and not just like sell a product. I don't know if you read it, but I think you can read it on his website for free now. Actually, like I think you can read the chapters when they come out.
Yeah, you can definitely tell it was kind of like a passion project for him. I think, if I can ever get to a place where that many people are willing to read my story, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, for sure. I think biggest thing is just like consistency and just continuing on doing it. Because a lot of people, like you said, it's a marathon, and a lot of people will just drop off as you go. You'll see it just in time, and I think the person who stays on the longest and is just putting out stuff the longest is the person who's just gonna, win.
Yep.
Have you ever thought, like, if somebody's ever came to you about doing like client work or anything like that?
So I have drawn books, like whole books for other people, and I learned a lot because back when I was in college, I actually illustrated for an indie publisher called Dark Moon Comics. I illustrated his issue 2 for one of his books, and let me pull it up because I don't remember the name off the top of my head because this was like going on like 3-4 years ago. Let me go back, see if I can find some stuff from when we were dealing. But yeah, he was a cool experience. It kind of helped me learn about what rates I should be charging for books or pages because I did like a page rate. And then there was another guy, he commissioned me for a book, and that's where I kind of had to learn about boundaries because he would like change the page count from the book. Is like we would agree that, hey, I'm gonna draw 20 pages, and he would say, hey, Jay, actually I'm rewriting the chapters. Let's actually make it 27 pages. Or then he'd come back and say, actually, Jay, let's make it 32 pages. And I'd have to kind of be like, well, what are your goals? And he'd be like, well, I initially planned on, 6 books, but let's just make 3 50-page books. And I'd have to kind of be like, yeah, I kind of got to walk away from the project from there.
Yeah, that's crazy. You can't like just change it, especially it's easy for you as a writer to kind of just switch things up because you're not really having to put as much work in. Whereas like an artist, I have to like put a lot of thought into how I'm gonna put everything down, and you know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
and that's like a big. Yeah, that's a big gap. That's like a big gap and jump from like page count and stuff.
Yeah, it is. And it kind of helped me out with my own process because at the time that I was doing stuff for them, I actually didn't script my books. I would just kind of go off the dome. I didn't write anything down. But, working with them kind of helped me draw from a script. So I say there was some pros to it.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there's always something you can kind of get from every time you work on stuff with people, or like you just start doing your own thing. You kind of just start learning, what works for you and what doesn't. Like I've been learning that like how many pages are actually feasible for me to do in one night, and even if I'm able to have like to draw 2 pages or 3 or 4 pages, I don't think is the best for me to do that because I end up getting tired or like losing motivation, or even the quality starts to drop down. I've like learned a new thing with every single comic that I've put out, just like what works and what doesn't for me. So yeah, that's dope. I'm glad that like you actually got at least something positive out of that, those experiences, because some people get like super what's it called, like discouraged or pissed off and stuff.
Yep.
Have you ever thought about doing any like crowdfunding for your comics?
So I definitely have, because this is kind of one of the things I picked up while I was in Radical. Ronnie, he did a crowdfunding for issue 1 of his book, All Star, once upon a time, a couple years back. And, I've kind of learned from his experience is because he told me kind of where he went wrong, what he did right. And I think, for one, if I were to crowdfund, I'd have the book done before I start crowdfunding.
Yep.
So
that's
that,
key.
Not being late. And so making sure I can meet deadlines. Because I know there are some campaigns that I've donated to where they'll say, oh, we'll have the book done in August of this year. And they'll say that in like May or April. And then August comes. I'm like, hey guys, we're still working on the pages. We'll be ready in December. and stuff like that gets pushed back. I don't want to have that happen. I don't want that type of reputation amongst people who've given me money.
Uh-huh.
I just kind of want the product done, and kind of let the crowdfunding pay for just the printing of the book, not necessarily. I guess this is one of the good things about being an artist writer combo, because I know, it's definitely not cheap as a writer if having to pay an artist. I know they got to kind of make their books a bit more expensive,
Yeah.
but it kind of makes it easy for me. I don't have to use the crowdfunding to pay an artist.
Yeah, I did my first Kickstarter for AWOL earlier this fall. I think I did it in June and it ended August. And that was the same way. I was like, I'm gonna make sure I have the book done before I, launch the campaign. I want to make sure I know all the details of like how much it's gonna cost, so I get the exact amount of money that I need, and not trying to like do the most, or because some people they'll shoot their their goal fund too high, and they might not even make the money back, or even make that amount of money when they didn't really need that much. And even like the amount of product that you need, like I was aiming for just maybe like 100 books. I wasn't trying to get like 1,000 copies of a book, because I knew like I don't have like a solid fan base of readers yet, so I didn't want to have too much stock and then be stuck with comics for the rest of the year, or like rest of the, or for a couple years and stuff. But it was an interesting experience for sure, just doing the whole Kickstarter campaign. It's fun. I mean, it wasn't fun. It was definitely stressful, but it was a learning experience, because you kind of like figure out like what works and what doesn't, and the whole marketing thing, and what people are drawn to, what people aren't. And the Kickstarter is just an interesting platform, because you don't really know like what draws people to back books outside of like people who already are your friends and family. Just like getting like the random eyes on your books, like what draws somebody to the back of your comic. Because on Kickstarter you'll see books that may not be like the best art, but they'll have a lot of money, and then you'll see some books that are really, really good, or you'll think is like really, really good as far as like a comic book art goes, and it might not do very well. So it is an interesting platform. I actually talked to Ronnie about it on my other page when I was doing live streams on there, about his experience doing the Kickstarter. He had some interesting things to talk about, because I remember when he did those campaigns, and I think I was talking to him. I think he said he put his price point a little too high than what he actually thought he would get. But I mean, you just live and you learn. It's not like a lot, especially like you said, as a writer artist, there's not really that much money up front that you're investing in. So it's not like you're losing any money compared to like somebody who's a writer who might have paid already for an X amount of pages, or and then they don't hit their funding goal, and so they're just out on money. So that's really, really shitty. But I think you do pretty good on Kickstarter if you try to do that.
I'd say I definitely want to give it a shot one day and see what happens. I think because Ronnie was also telling me like promotion is key, like promoting even before the Kickstarter is like officially available, making sure to always share it. So he definitely gave me some gems.
For sure. So are you just planning on are you going to just continue uploading chapters of DeathSeed on Global Comics, or what is your like plan as far as putting the book out, just having the physical books?
So my plan is to put the chapters on Global. They will be free, because I was at some point in time, I was contemplating between I was contemplating, should I make like after chapter 3, should every chapter be paid? I think that's kind of like a thing every artist comes to. Like, should I make everything free? Should I charge people? I ultimately settled on I would make the story free, just to kind of like maximize reach online, but I would still have physical copies for the people who like really liked it or really wanted to support. And I do have like bonus content within the actual books that don't get posted on the digital versions online, just to kind of like give people like an extra incentive, or kind of give them like an extra treat for actually buying the physical copy of the book.
Yeah, for sure. It does make it a little special. That's kind of like the whole webtoons format, like dynamic is people they'll just put the book out on webtoons for free for a couple years, build their audience, and then they'll be like, oh, I got a new, the physical copies. If you want chapters 1 through whatever, you could buy the physical copies, and it seems to have worked for those artists. So I think that it would be a good way to go. I think giving out free books is always good because it definitely gives people more eyes on your stuff. Even if you're just doing like the first chapter or two, I think it definitely helps a lot. Like I plan on doing that with some of the comics I have coming up. I want to do just like a free comic just for people to get eyes on. A big thing is like building up a mailing list, which is something I've done for the last couple of years. Like I have free comics on my website for people to download, and even though I'm giving away 1 or 2 comics for free for download, I still end up getting like their email because of the transaction. Because I have a Wix website as well, so but I have the pro version, and so I mean you still kind of get I'll still get an email and stuff, so it's still like an incentive to build that email list because that's a really important thing that I've seen people talk about, and I've done a good job of building it up the last couple of years by giving out free stuff and selling products and things like that. But I think since we are writers and we are artists ourselves, we're not really losing too much money or really losing any money at all giving stuff out for free.
Yeah, it definitely helps on that front. Is that a similar business model you plan on adapting, like selling the physical copies at events, but making it free online, or are you going something else?
Yeah, I think that's something I'm still trying to toy with certain things. I think I'm still gonna do Kickstarters for like initial print runs for books and just do like small print runs and just so I have stuff at the table at conventions because I'm gonna try to implement at least like 1 or 2 or 3 cons a year. And then as far as free stuff, yeah, I think I'll probably do like put out the free chapters of a book after a few months after the Kickstarter's done, or I end up I sell out of the physical copies or things like that. Because I'm not super I'm not making comics because I'm expecting to make like a hell of money or anything like that. I'm more just trying to like get people to read my stuff and just have a good time. And I think get people to read it essentially is like the big goal. And if you can get people to read it for free, and if they really really like it, I think they will spend money on it. Like if you look at manga, you can essentially read every manga for free online, but people still will go and buy the physical book if they really really like it. So that's kind of something I'm leaning towards. I just got to figure out how I'm going to go about doing that, like with what comic series or what comics I'm going to do that for, and even how I'm going to roll the web comic out. Like, should I do like 1 or 2 pages a week, or should I do the first like a complete full chapter, or maybe should I do a chapter bits like the first 5 pages and the next 5 pages, and weekly or something like that. So that's something I've been trying to figure out as well, because I was doing like I said on the Wix website, I had my webcomic on there, and I was doing this full chapters a month, and I mean I was getting traction and stuff, but the only thing the problem was I wasn't building up my email list, because people would just come and then they'll read whatever I had posted on there and then they would just go. So that's why having something to sell or to download is a little bit better, because then you do end up getting the email list and stuff, and that's a really important thing, because that's just like a direct contact line to the people who support you or whatever. If you think about it, like all the websites, like if you buy clothes from like Fashion Nova or whatever, they have your number and they'll message you, oh, we have this deal going on, da da da. And that's just something that I feel like is important. So since I have built my email list these last couple of years, it would be more incentive for me to just post it on my website, like the pages, and then I can just email people, oh, I just got a new website up, da da da. So it's just something I've been thinking about. I'm still toying with it, but I think implementing a web or digital versions of my comics that are free, I think is something that I'm definitely gonna try and do.
I'd say I'll definitely look into that email list. I think that's something our group Radicals could definitely take a look at. Even if all of us work together, I think we could come up with enough content to email interested people and keep them regularly updated, stuff like that.
Yeah, like what I've been doing like the last 2 shows, I did. I have like a piece of paper, and it just says, "Oh, sign up for my email list." I've done that too, so that's kind of helped. Um, just it's just like little stuff. You just want to figure out the best ways to kind of get people invested in what you're doing and be able to reach as many people as possible. Because obviously, with Instagram, you don't know if people are actually seeing your posts or not. Same thing when you post on other websites. Like I don't know about Twitter. I haven't used Twitter in years, or I don't have a TikTok either. But if you have an email list, you literally have a direct line to those people instead of having to hope that people are seeing your post on whatever platform you're posting on.
Is there a reason that you chose not to have a TikTok?
Honestly, I just couldn't get into it. Like I had a TikTok maybe like a month. Was on there a little bit. I'm not really a big fan of like that short form content and like the scrolling stuff. And then when I would hear the same sound over and over, I would get irritated. Like I was like, you know what? I just my wife can have TikTok. She can deal with that. I would just stick. And that's why I found YouTube, because I was always on YouTube. I like watching a lot of videos on YouTube, and then I just started posting, and it's worked so far. So I'm just gonna stick on here until it stops working, I guess.
Okay. It's good. Sounds like you found something that works.
Has TikTok worked for you as far as like promoting your comics? How has that been for you?
So I've definitely gotten some views off of it. I think come next year, my goal is to end up on the TikTok shop because they have a built-in shop. And I see a lot of comic book creators selling their work on shops, like selling hundreds of books. So, because it's like a built-in thing where you can post your videos and like have a built-in link to it to where they can go and purchase it
Mm-hmm.
through like the business profile. So every video you make is basically like one big ad that links to your actual product. So I think that would definitely, kind of serve well because I know TikTok, they actually boost those posts too. So they tend to get more views than like your normal post would. So I think that was always something I wanted to get interested in. So right now I'm kind of just working on getting a label maker so that I can get ready to ship books out when they're finished and ready to be promoted.
Nice. That's dope. Yeah, I've heard about TikTok. So I've seen a few people utilize those. I've seen people post about all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, my YouTube page is I'm a partner on YouTube now on my main page. So it gives you like a YouTube shop. So it's kind of the same thing where there's like a page on my main page on my main channel where you can just go and check out my comics and stuff. So I mean that's helped so far. I mean, I've gotten a few sales here and there, or just people just going and just checking out my website. That is like the biggest thing to get people to go and actually buy or check out your stuff. Because a lot of people, especially with your own like website, I feel like people are not trusting and buying stuff off of creators' websites. Like I feel like they would much rather you have like an Amazon page or it's through something else. But it just takes time to build up all those people to want to buy your stuff and then continue on buying it.
Yeah, I can definitely see like a little bit of a trust aspect because I feel like once you get on Amazon, people kind of see you as more official.
Yeah. Right, and people just trust Amazon like because they've been using it the last 15 years or however long Amazon's been around. Whereas, you never know what people's websites, what they could be doing with your data or any of that stuff. I don't know, but I mean, I've bought stuff off people's websites or like their Etsy's. I bought so I mean, I'm never really too worried about any of that, but everybody's different. I've seen on your website that you do other types of art? Like I've seen you do like your some animation stuff and some motion graphics. How did you get into that? Did you learn that at your school, or
Yeah,
were you
that
already
was
interested in doing
part
it
of
before?
school, and it was a class. I thought it was pretty cool, and it was a good way to kind of merge it in with my comic art. Because I mainly saw it because I saw people were like making these kind of like rigs for their characters and making them move, and it's something that I want to try out. And I haven't done it in a minute because I was using like the Adobe stuff
Mm-hmm.
from like, and Adobe is expensive because at the time I was doing this, I was getting like a student discount. It was free, but now it's very expensive. So I haven't done it, even though I want to, because I'm like, who wouldn't want to make their characters kind of move a little bit?
Yeah.
And it's less time consuming than actual animation. So
Damn, that's what's up, man. That's dope. Yeah, I've like been teaching myself, especially with the YouTube, like how to design stuff. I use Affinity Designer to like do all my thumbnails and to format all of my pages for print. And then I to edit my videos, I just use CapCut. I don't really use anything else. But yeah, I've been like trying to learn how to do other things outside of just drawing comics, which is like kind of annoying because I'm like I don't want to learn how to do that, but it kind of helps to be multi skilled with different things, especially with like the design stuff, like learning all of that uh stuff for like doing like the thumbnails for my videos and stuff. I think it's helped in the long run with me like uh figuring out how to format my not format but design my cover art and stuff for my comics. So it's little things like that.
yeah, you definitely learn that you gotta have a little bit of graphic design skills when it comes to like making covers, formatting books, and stuff like that.
And so how was it working on those Marvel Snap cards? Did you like do like design a whole full card, or did you just do like certain aspects of the card, or how was that experience?
It was mainly kind of like coloring the card. Professor was the one doing the inks for that stuff, and he would kind of send his inks to us and let us color over them. Because what would happen is Marvel Snap went kind of like an editor, so if someone would like they would submit the art, it would get approved by the person, or they'll say, "Oh no, go back and redo this" or whatever. And when he had like other work, he would send us stuff. He'd give us an opportunity to color it and like submit it to the editor. And sometimes, they would approve it and be like, oh, this is good. And then bam, student officially played a part in creating a Marvel Snap card.
Wow, that's dope. Did you ever get to see like what card did you work on? Do you remember?
One of them was a Black Panther card, and another one was, I want to say, Wolverine.
Damn, that's dope.
I don't actually play the game Marvel Snap, which is
Yeah,
kind of funny that I was working on it because I was playing one of Marvel's other mobile games at the time. But no, I could never really get into Snap.
it's like a trading card thing, right?
Yeah, have
Essentially.
you? Yeah,
No,
I'm
I've
trying to
never played any of it. I've seen like people like artists that I followed who've worked on those types of worked on the characters for some of the cards and stuff, but I've never got to. I haven't even played any mobile games or any video games in a long, long ass time, honestly. But well, that's dope though. You got a little bit, some professional stuff under your belt. Have
Yeah, but
you? So
it's hard to get more of that type of stuff because I feel like the industry just kind of been in a shambles. Like if you're not already somebody who has like a wealth of experience or already well known, it can definitely be kind of difficult to get your foot in the door.
yeah, I feel that. Have you tried to submit like any portfolios to or like try to work on anything else outside of like the comics you've been worked on? Like, have you tried to pursue like an actual job in doing art or anything like that, like graphic design work or commercial artwork or anything like that?
So yes, when I first graduated, I spent like a whole year working on stuff as trying to be like a freelance illustrator. I was doing something submitting portfolios to something called an artist agency or illustration agency, what they would basically do is they would take your portfolio, send it to like art directors, and basically find you work, kind of like a sports agent, and they would
Hmm.
take their cut, so they're kind of incentivized to find you work and negotiate, a good salary for you, so they can get like a higher cut too. And but there's a process. You can't really just join those. Kind of got to apply. And I had like
Yeah.
a whole Excel sheet with like dozens of like agencies, and none of them were really looking for artists at the time that I was applying, so I couldn't find anything. I think out of all the people that I initially graduated with, only one person kind of like found an agent and was kind of getting some like consistent work in terms of like illustration. And my portfolio that you kind of like saw the motion graphic stuff on, originally it looked different because it was more tailored towards illustration and comic book art, but I would kind of get rejection letter after rejection letter, and I was kind of used to it. My professors kind of told me like, as an artist, you kind of gonna have to get used to rejection, and I kind of did, so it didn't surprise me. But I mean, it doesn't make it suck less.
Yeah. 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 I feel you. Yeah. Yeah. It is tough. Honestly. Like I feel like the art field is so competitive in order to like stand out, and you don't know what's, I think a lot of it's like trends and what's kind of what people are looking for at the time, and all that stuff. I think is really really tough to kind of get in those fields and have consistent work. But at least
Yeah,
you didn't like get discouraged and like people just give up on making art and things like that. So at least you still pursue your creative side, because I've seen people would say stuff like they just they kind of give up on making art, they just don't care no more because they need work or dot dot dot, or like they have to go get a real job that isn't art related and it kind of bums them out. So I think that's dope that you're still making artwork, because eventually, like I said, somebody's gonna see your comic at one point or see something, they're like, oh, I like that, and then you will get work or things like that, or even get your book published to a major label or things like that.
yeah, that would definitely could be cool because I remember they would kind of like ask you working for like Boom Studios was kind of like something I wanted to do. I think it's still like on my about me page on my website. Like I was like, "Ooh, I'd like to work for Boom Studios one day," or like
Yeah.
Marvel, and like do it. Mainly at this point, I've kind of learned about myself. I kind of like doing my story, so I don't know about drawing like a whole run of another story. I'd kind of be like somebody who just kind of like to do covers or do like individual issues.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm kind of similar as well. Whereas like I would rather just do my own thing. Like that's why I really don't open myself up for like commissions or anything like that, because I'd rather just do my own projects. To me, making art is just like a stress reliever, just like going to work out or like things like that. Whereas like I don't want to feel as though I have to do like a business transaction or be beholden to whatever standard you want for me and not the standard that I want for myself. Even just like doing stuff with people, like commissioning people myself, I always feel like weird about it, because I'm not like super weird about money. Like I don't care about paying you, but then if like I feel you didn't do it the way I wanted to, I feel kind of weird, and I'm just like, I don't want to deal with that. Like I'd rather just learn how to do everything myself.
Yep.
Is there anything that you're like reading consistently, like
Um.
comics wise or anything, manga?
So I was reading this one kind of short run, this one comic called Bug Wars. I really liked like the concept and the
Oh yeah, I know that
premise.
one.
The
Mhm.
art looked good, so I was reading that one. As far as like comics and manga, I've been collecting the Berserk Deluxe editions, so I
Oh
have
yeah, those are
those
dope.
like on the shelf. So I've been reading that. kind of been reading like some manhwa, the Korean comics. I've been reading a little bit of those. They're very popular. The last manga I was reading was Kingdom.
Oh, I know
Um,
Kingdom.
yeah, that was definitely a good one. And yeah, that's kind of been it. I think recently I've been watching more TV because like while I'm drawing, I'll have like something playing in the background. It's kind of like no background noise, and I'd like watch a couple TV shows while I'm drawing. Well, watch wouldn't be the most appropriate. More like listen to a couple TV shows because I'm
Yeah.
kind of drawing, but because I don't know, it was weird. Like growing up in like high school, middle school, I used to like draw with no noise, just dead silence. But once I got to like college, I kind of have to have some sort of background noise while I'm drawing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely the same way. I'm definitely I listen to like podcasts, or I used to listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't listen to podcasts anymore, but I'll watch like a lot of video essays or anything that I can watch or listen to passively while I'm working or drawing. That's kind of like what I've been kind of same as you, where I just need something that I can just kind of keep my mind occupied while I'm drawing or working on whatever I'm working on. As far as reading comics, I'm a consistent comic reader. I go every week to the comic book shop. I have a bunch of books that I pick up. Manga, I haven't really been reading too much manga. Like I've definitely been more interested in like the manga that are short runs, like fully completely done series, or like something that's like a one shot or things like that. I think the only manga that I've been completely caught up on is Chainsaw Man, and I've just been reading that for the last like couple years. So I've been able to keep up with it, but I haven't really read anything else as far as manga goes. Comics, I've been reading like Absolute Batman, Minor Threats. That one's really, really good. What else have I been reading? Just a bunch of stuff. I've been reading Deadly Class. I don't know if you heard about that one from Rick Remender and Wes Craig. That one's really, really good. That's like probably one of the best comics I think I've read in a long time. Like as far as the series goes, it's
Okay.
like it got picked up for a show. It had one season of a show, and then I think COVID kind of messed up the rest of how it was supposed to come out, and then it got canceled. But it's a really good comic. I would recommend picking it up if you haven't read it. It's about like these kids who go to this school that teaches them how to be like assassins, but they're not like an assassin school. It's like every kid is part of like a crime syndicate in their respective like countries or families or whatever. Like some of them from like the mafia, some of them from like Compton Crips, and then some of them are like KGB or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They're all different types of it. So it's pretty interesting. And like the main character isn't from any of those syndicates. He was just like some kid whose parents died when he was little, and he's kind of was like a homeless person, and then he ended up intertwined in that world, and it kind of goes from there. It's really, really good. What else? Kaya is another good one, which is by the artist who did Deadly Class. He's writing and draw this one. It's ongoing. What else I read? Ultra Mega. That's a really good one as well. I just pick up stuff. I pick up a lot of different stuff and I just check it out. Especially if I find an artist that I really, really like, I'll just consistently just stay with that artist because it's just like, well, I like your work. I want to continue seeing what you're doing. But yeah, I think I'm done here. So I finished. This is what I got.
All right, let me take a look at it. Hey man, that's some dope work. Like I'm really messing with the inks.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been trying to like use these live streams as like a way to just kind of do some quick drawings and stuff. And then if somebody has like a comic, I'll try to draw like fan art because I feel like it kind of helps promote,
Yes,
But
sir. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, man. I'm about to flip the camera so we can kind of wrap this up if you. Let me see. Boom. Sweet. Oh shit. How do I? There you go.
There it is. Okay.
Oh yeah, man. But hey, yeah, man. I appreciate you for stopping by. And giving me your time to do this interview. Really interesting. You're a really good artist. Whenever I first saw your page, like Ronnie posted you, I was like, man, that guy's really dope. And I went to go check out DeathSeed, and I was like, man, it's really good. So I've been following you ever since then. I'm really excited to see what the first issue is, coming about. If you have anything else you want to promote, like if you're open for like commissions, or you're open for any work, or when anything, just let the people know.
I'd say thank you, sir, for having me on. Listen, guys, read DeathSeed. Go to my Instagram, DeathSeed_comics. You can read the prologue for free on Global Comics. It's the first link on my link tree. And if you're interested in purchasing a physical copy, like what I have in my hand right here, these are some pretty high quality pages. I printed them using the online printing service Mixum. Pretty good for anybody who's interested. And yeah, if you're interested, buy the physical copies, but it is free to read online. So if anybody has the free time, feel free to give it a read.
Yep. All the links to DeathSeed and to Jay's Instagram will be in the description of this video. Again, man, I appreciate you for coming by. Everybody, don't forget to like this video. If you haven't subscribe, and all that good stuff. See you guys in the next one. Peace.
Yes, sir.
Stream.